Hello there. A couple weeks ago, I asked you what your weirdest coffee orders were, either ordered by yourself or something you've seen ordered. Now, you gave me lots of weird options, and we chose a couple of them to try a few weeks ago. They were good, they were bad, they were weird, they were interesting, and I think we had a fun time ranking them. So, backed by popular demand, we're gonna do that one more time. I went back through all of your responses and I sourced what I think are maybe even more interesting ones. So, we've got 5 drinks to make today. Let's just hop right into it. Now, we're definitely starting off on kind of a, I don't wanna say a strong foot, but definitely a weird foot. This one comes to us with very little instruction. This is more, I think, a concept than it is a beverage. But they say it's not necessarily a coffee, but I've added a shot of espresso to spinach, and it was kind of good. I have tried stranger things in the past. I have put coffee in what I would think is a little bit more bizarre of an ingredient, but I have some spinach, I have some espresso. Let's see if it is kind of good. Once more, real fast, like we did last time, we're gonna be ranking all of these drinks on a scale of 1 to 10. That is taste, that is drinkability, that is also a little bit weirdness. Like, I'm looking for weird stuff that tastes good here. We'll see what we get. So I have a bowl of wilted spinach here, as I might prepare it as like a side dish. Now, it doesn't have anything added to it right now. No salt, no seasoning. This was just popped into some boiling water and then blanched it afterwards with cold water to stop it from cooking. So it's taken on the usual spinach texture. And I also have, very nervously, I have a double shot of espresso. We were given very little instruction on this. I contemplated adding the espresso to the boiling water that I was putting and cooking the spinach in, but I thought we should add it afterwards. That felt a little bit more in line with it being like an added ingredient to all of this. And of course, for consumption, I suppose we will need a fork of some sort. We're just gonna go in with a little bit. A full double shot is really gonna drown the spinach. This feels wrong. It looks like soy sauce though, which soy sauce and spinach, not a bad combination. Very tasty, in fact. Maybe a little bit more. Now, this spinach is freshly cooked, so it is still pretty warm, and I'm hoping that will add to our overall tactile experience. You can really tell I'm in competition mode when I start talking about the tactile experience of spinach and espresso. Starting off, in case you'd like to replicate this at home, I started off with about 1.5 cups of dry spinach, and so I then cooked and blanched that. We're left with this, and now I've added probably about 1/2 ounce of espresso. I know those are measurements that people don't like. Those are the ones we're using for this recipe. I am so sorry. If you can't use those measurements, maybe don't make this. And also maybe don't make this even if you can use those measurements. Filming this in the morning, and this is the first food that I am putting into my body today. I can't say I'm very excited about that. I need to think about this for a second. This is gonna be an interesting day. I can already say that much. It's not as awful as you might imagine. There's kind of a vegetal like greenness that exists in the spinach that isn't totally unpleasant when paired with like the bitterness in coffee. In a very weird way, they kind of balance each other out. Now, it's not good. I could see how someone might be able to get to kind of good, but as far as just good in general, this is not good. This is perhaps interesting and maybe a little lesson in flavor pairings. I choose not to eat any more of this, and I'm gonna give this beverage slash dish a 3 out of 10. It is consumable, but it is not enjoyable. I'm excited for anything else to go into my mouth after that espresso spinach. That was perhaps some poor phrasing on my part. We have something next that I think shows a little bit more promise off the bat. Taylor the Alien comes in with a little bit more instructional of a recipe. They say green tea baggie in the cup first, then coffee. Let it brew and mix cream, milk, and sugar. So we have some ingredients. We also have some instructions. I have a cup. I also have some green tea. This happens to be jasmine tea, which I feel like is a pretty decent combination. Jasmine tea also tends to be a flavor note in a lot of coffees. So off the bat, this seems like it's going in a good direction. However, we're gonna steep this not in water, but in coffee. And I have some freshly brewed coffee right here. Let's do some measuring so we can do this accurately. That's about 200 mils of coffee right there. And now this is green tea, so I think we're gonna give it about 3 or so minutes to steep in here. So I'll be right back.
I want to give a huge thank you to StandArt for sponsoring today's video. This is a publication that you may have seen me sharing quite a bit lately, so it's really exciting to finally be working with them. StandArt is a curated print magazine for folks who love coffee. It's a beautiful look at all angles of coffee, from the art to the science to the people behind it. New issues are published every quarter and always include a coffee sample, so you always have something to sip on while you read. Currently, I'm reading through issue 29 and sipping on a coffee from The Barn, a roaster based out of Berlin. Issue 2029, the winter issue of Standart this past year was one of my all-time favorites and features such topics as learning more about the turbo shot and the psychology of how you hold your coffee cup. You might also see a familiar face in there as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to collaborate with Standart on an interview in this issue, and it's even better to be able to share it with you now. So if you'd like to get started, you can get signed up for a free trial that includes an issue of Standart and a coffee sample. All you pay is $9 for shipping and handling. You can get reading and learn more at standartmag.com/Morgan.
Okay, we are nearing completion with our steeping time. And so on the side here, I have some cream and I have some sugar. Smell-wise, this is very, very aromatic in favor of the jasmine tea. If you really get a lot of just jasmine on the nose, not so much some coffee. I'm actually kind of excited about this. I have added tea as an ingredient in various forms to coffee, a couple different like drink builds, and it can be very, very tasty if you're just being intentional about how you're, pairing those flavors together. Coffee is a very strong flavor, has a lot of delicate flavors within it. Tea itself is usually pretty delicate, so you just want to be like thoughtful with how you're bringing those two together, just in order to get the best out of both worlds. Okay, I think we're done steeping. I know we have a couple other ingredients to add, but I do want to have a taste of what we have in here right now. Smells nice. Get a lot of tannins from the tea. You certainly do. There is a lot of green tea in there, quite a bit. If I was served this just as a coffee without the knowledge that there was a tea steeped in there, I'd be like, what did you do in processing with this coffee? It's very tanniny. That's the best way I can describe it. However, I think with the softening of some sugar and some cream, we might get somewhere kind of good. I'm gonna go pretty light with the sugar. Right here, I just have like some cane sugar, as you would usually use in a simple syrup or just mix in dry as it is now. That is about 1.5 grams of sugar. Now we mix. Now we have some milk to add. This is just whole milk, so full fat, it's about 3% fat. I'm gonna go a little bit heavier on the milk. Okay, you can either look at it by color, which I was kind of doing, but we ended up at about 30 grams in weight of milk in here. I might even go just a tad bit sweeter on this. I think we need a little bit more sugar to kind of bind everything together. The milk as an addition definitely kind of binds the two beverages that we have going on here together. There's a reduction in the intensity of like the tannins that we were tasting earlier. Of course, the bitterness in the coffee is reduced as it does with milk, but it doesn't feel like these flavors have come together. It still very much feels like we have two separate things going on in the cup. I think just a tiny bit more sugar might act as that kind of binding agent we need. That was about 1 more gram of sugar in total. And now we taste. It's not a spectacular beverage, but it's pretty pleasant. I would define this, frankly, as kind of good. On a ranking scale though, we're gonna give this, I feel like we can give this a solid 5 out of 10. Drinkable, kind of good, but not blowing me out of the water just yet. The next one is simple. I'm very excited with how simple it is. It is black coffee with a few drops of lime juice added. Now, if any of you remember my USBC beverage from last year, we played around a lot with citrus and specifically lime in coffee. We used a lime oleosaccharum, which is just the sugars and then the oils from a lime peel, homogenized together into basically what is a very thick, like tart and syrupy, kind of addition to coffee. Very pleasant. However, today it's black coffee and lime juice. I'm a big fan of recipes that make my life simple, and this one I think is as simple as you can get. With black coffee, we're gonna kind of manually squeeze these limes to get a couple drops out. Coffee in. Now the person who submitted this drink, it's pretty clear that it's just a few drops of lime. So we're gonna start off very, very light. We can intensify if we need to. Okay, perhaps that was on me. Anyways, we'll try that again. That was about 5 drops of lime juice, very, very small drops. We'll stir and we'll taste. Get a little bit of lime on the nose. It's not very intense though. Now this is a lighter coffee in general. This is not a super dark roast. So you already get a lot of kind of like light, a little bit more like citric, a little bit more bright flavors to it rather than something that's super dense and like chocolatey and roasty. Frankly, the lime juice pairs kind of nicely with this. You know, there's always kind of like that weird thing of like something that is already, you know, pretty acidic, especially in flavor, and then adding more acidic things to it. Like, you might think it would be too much, but actually it works very well together. You experience the lime a lot less in like the feel of acidity and more just kind of in flavor, if that makes sense to you. It's not necessarily an addition that makes you want to like pucker up your mouth like if you were sucking on a lime, but it's something that tastes like lime. Overall, pretty pleasant. I don't necessarily know if I'm ready to fully co-sign lime juice in coffee, but in this format, it's kind of good, which I think is really what we're aiming for today. I think that original description of something being kind of good is the best we can get. This is drinkable. I would choose to drink a little bit more of this, and so, frankly, out of everything we've had so far, I'll give this like a 7 out of 10. This is pretty decent. Now the next one, I have very high hopes for. This person said, it's not my own, but I saw someone drink coffee with mixed fruit jam in it. That sounds good. Once more, we've got our cup. We also have some black coffee. And I had to do some thinking about what flavor fruit jam I wanted to add to this. And I settled on apricot. And I also picked this brand because I was a little bit jealous of everyone opening up their advent calendars full of this sort of jam. So this is the flavor of apricot. It should be very tasty. There is already like sugars added to this, so this is not only adding kind of some texture to this drink, it's going to be adding a lot of flavor to this drink. It's also going to be adding just inherently sweetness to this drink. So I'm rather tickled to put fruit jam in my coffee. Now let's measure out what feels proportional to the amount of coffee we're going to be adding. Let's start with that. That is 15 grams of our fruit spread. Coffee in. That's about 180 mils of coffee. Ooh, and now we get the fun and noisy process of mixing these two together. Now this is not a totally smooth fruit spread. We do have some pulpiness to it, which is probably not going to be super pleasant to drink, but because it's so heavy, a lot of that is settling just at the bottom, while a majority of our, I think, flavor has really incorporated through the rest of the cup. I think we'll just use caution if you get to the bottom of the cup. Or if you like a pulpy coffee, not one to judge you, to each their own. Don't know if pulpy coffee is my preference though. Let's taste. It smells very good. You know what? I take it back. I think this is the best thing I've had so far today. There's certainly a lot of apricot in it. You might want to be cautious on what sort of fruit jam you add, because if you don't really like that fruit, you definitely aren't gonna like that coffee. You get additional sweetness. It's nice. It's kind of a 2-for-1 scenario we have going on here. I do think this would be very, very good with milk added. You still have a little bit of that problem of like, these do taste like two separate things. You definitely taste jam and then you taste coffee, and they're not like a new flavor together. However, overall, this is certainly the winner. I'm gonna give this a 7.5 out of 10. It's a little bit better than that last one. It's not perfect yet, but as far as this combination goes, we're doing okay. We have come to our final drink of the day, and perhaps the one that is the most worrisome. In fact, this is one of the ones that prompted me to want to do this video series again. This goes very, very poorly. I am blaming you, Paul, just so you know. Paul submitted the drink olive espresso. Now, this is not olive oil, like the new kind of like trendy, like Starbucks edition is. No. These are olives. Paul says, I like a sliced open olive in my espresso shot. Black ones taste much better than green. Now, Paul could entirely be pulling my leg on this, but I am here with my leg out to be pulled, so let's try this. Just to be a little bit extra fancy, I have put our espresso shot in a fancy glass. I feel like this is giving off martini energy, so maybe that's just the olives. Let's see how this goes. I have got some sliced open black olives here, and I will say, I am a fan of black olives. I think they're delicious. I will put them on my pizza. I'll put them in my rice bowls. They'll go in pretty much everything. I can say for certain though, I have never yet put an olive in an espresso. The addition of salt in coffee frequently works as a combination. It's a really, really nice balancing agent if you have something that is too sweet or something that needs to be kind of like some flavors that need to be homogenized more together. Salt is a great tool for that. Olives tend to be pretty salty, so you know, there's a potential this could work. I'm gonna put the equivalent of 1 olive in, so 2 halves here. I think we should just let this kind of infuse for a moment, perhaps even stir it together a little bit. I don't know if we should fish the olives out. That is also my question. I'm just gonna give them like a full minute in there to kind of marinate together. Can't really smell anything, so that's, I think, maybe a good sign. I'm so nervous about this. My stomach has experienced so many interesting flavors so early in the morning today. Okay, I think we will leave our olives inside and we'll just have a taste. All right, here goes nothing. don't know how I feel about this. It's more confusing than it is anything else. You don't necessarily taste the olives inside the espresso. Like, you don't taste a distinct olive flavor, but there's just something about the espresso that tastes very, very off. I don't know if my earlier theory about maybe some of that salt content in the olives kind of rounding out this espresso, I don't know if that is ringing true here in the way I was hoping it was going to. But we've just ended up with like a very confusing concoction here. It tastes a little bit like pool water. It tastes a little bit like there's been some chlorine added. Well, points for confusing me, Paul. My taste buds don't know what to do with this. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. Purely for how like mystifying this is to me. I think it's pretty impressive that you have fully stumped me on what I'm supposed to do with this flavor profile. Anyways, I can safely say that I don't intend to drink the rest of this. Those were 5 more of your weirdest coffee orders, and I don't know if we had as much luck as we did last time. We definitely had a more interesting time, I think, and that might be about it today. We have some other videos planned for the rest of this month and next month, and we have competition coming up. Now, if you'd like to leave any of your weird coffee orders, either ones that are from you or you've seen ordered or had ordered from you, feel free to do that down below. We have some videos planned for the next couple weeks and months, but there might be a continuation of this at some point. So have at it, I might choose yours. In the meantime, I am not gonna go drink the rest of this. I think I'm gonna make myself some breakfast and actually brew myself a cup of normal coffee, sans olives. But as usual, my name is Morgan. That's not how I do this. How I usually do this is I say, I am Morgan Drinks Coffee. You can find me here on YouTube once a week plus shorts, and you can also find me on Instagram or TikTok pretty much every single day. If you'd like to check out any sort of the brewing supplies that I use on an everyday basis, you can also go to morgandrinkscoffee.com, where we're gonna be launching something very cool very, very soon, but more on that in the future. So I'm gonna walk off screen with this, but I'm definitely not gonna drink it. Please don't think that I am. I will see you all next time, and have a great day.